There are prisons meant to break the body, and there are prisons meant to break the mind. But deep beneath the old stone halls of Kriegsfall Penitentiary, there was a third kind, a cell designed to unravel something more fundamental. The self.it had no chains, no torturers, no sound, just walls of mirrors, and it was called the mirror cell. Over 70 years ago, men were lowered into that cell alone, under silence for punishment, observation, or psychological research. Every one of them came out different. Most didn't speak. Some clawed their own eyes out, and a few simply laughed until their hearts stopped. But why? What is it about seeing yourself endlessly, eternally, that peels the mind apart? Was it a psychological experiment? A relic of a cult tradition? Or something older? Something inside the glass that stared back? They say it only takes 3 days. 3 days to break. 3 days to forget who you are. 3 days to meet the version of you that was never supposed to be let out. And once you see it, you never look at mirrors the same way again. The prison wasn't just a prison. It was a monument to control, built in the aftermath of the Franco-Prussian War. Kriegsfall Penitentiary stood at the border of military precision and psychological warfare, hidden in the Baden-Württemberg countryside. It housed spies, deserters, madmen, and those too dangerous to execute. Its architecture was circular, panopticon-inspired. Its silence was weaponized, and beneath it all, the mirror cell. Construction began in 1871, but within a year, 3 of the lead architects had gone missing. Their sketches were found in a locked drawer covered in scribbles and notes like, "Don't let them stand too long. Never close the door behind you. The eyes are always a little slower than the head." No bodies were recovered, but the mirror cell was completed to their exact specifications, and according to one surviving builder, the walls weren't just glass, they were something else. Unlike the rest of the prison, the mirror cell was invisible. It was buried, accessed only by a single shaft. Windows. Air vents, a cube of mirrored surfaces, exactly 9 feet on all sides, triple reinforced glass, polished so perfectly it reflected every angle, including the floor and ceiling. Once inside, a person was no longer surrounded by walls, but by versions of themselves. They said it was to study isolation, but the truth was far stranger, because the first prisoner locked inside the mirror cell lasted 6 hours, and when they pulled him out, he wouldn't stop screaming, "The one in the corner isn't me." His name was Eric Haas, age 31, convicted of attempted assassination against a high-ranking general, intelligent, articulate. Known for his cold demeanor, he volunteered for the experiment. "I fear nothing." He told the warden, "Not even myself." He was wrong. Eric was selected for his mental stability, a control subject. He was given food, water, and a notebook, a single command: remain for 3 days. Observe the room. Observe yourself. He entered the mirror cell at 6 o'clock, February 17th, 1882. Guards sealed the shaft above him the first hour. Silence the second. Muttering. By the 6th. Laughter. Eric's writings, later recovered, begin logical, almost clinical. Our one strange sensation. Feels like I'm being watched. Our two. The room breathes with me. I see it in the mirrors. My chest moves. Then theirs. Always a beat too late. Our four. There's a man in the upper corner. I didn't move, but he tilted his head. Slightly. After that, the entries become erratic. Frantic. They blink when I don't. One of them whispered. They smile. I don't. They're not me. They want out the last written line. I remember less now. Who's writing this? Eric's laughter grew louder over time, unbroken, shrill, mechanical. Guards reported it echoing through the ventilation shafts like music. BYR-15. It stopped. Silence returned. When they opened the hatch, they found Eric collapsed in the corner, lips split from smiling, lungs ruptured from constant laughter, dead. His autopsy showed signs of extreme psychological strain, internal bleeding consistent with seizure and collapse. Skin abrasions on his fingers from clawing at mirrored surfaces. His vocal cords were swollen, as if he'd been screaming, but only laughter was heard. The most disturbing detail? His pupils were dilated post-mortem. As if he died looking at something that never stopped looking back. A guard named Otto Grimmel later confessed, "When we looked down at him from the mirror above, one of his reflections was still smiling, but his body wasn't. He was dismissed for mental instability. He hung himself a week later," his suicide note read. "I see myself in the glass sometimes, but I'm not blinking. Not anymore." Eric was the first to die inside the mirror cell, but not the last. What shattered him wasn't isolation. It was repetition, recognition, and the moment he realized something was watching from behind the glass, something that knew how to smile better than he did. Warden Friedrich Lenz was a strict man, feared, respected, but to his daughter Anneliese, he was simply Papa. She was 9 years old, curious, clever, and often left unattended while her father managed one of the most dangerous prisons in Europe. She played in the courtyard. She fed the rats in the kitchens, and sometimes she wandered too deep. The mirror cell had been sealed for over a decade. After Eric Haas's death and 3 failed experiments afterward, the room was declared structurally unstable, unofficially. The staff called it the reflection tomb, but Anneliese was drawn to it. She'd seen the door, heard the stories, and one day, while exploring with a stolen ring of keys, she unlocked it. They found her 47 minutes later. A cook had seen the elevator shaft lights flicker, a warning system that someone was below. Warden Lenz personally led the retrieval team. When they opened the door, they found Anneliese standing in the center of the cell, unmoving, surrounded by hundreds of her own tiny reflections. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was smiling. Warden Lenz, "Anneliese, come to me, Anneliese, Papa. There's a girl in here, Warden. Yes, that's you. We're in a room of mirrors, Anneliese, no. She talks like me, but her mouth doesn't match. She said she was here first." The girl clung to her father and said, "Don't leave her alone too long. She gets angry." In the weeks that followed, Anneliese changed. She stopped talking. She stopped blinking when spoken to. Instead, she drew obsessively. Each drawing was the same. A little girl standing in a glass room. Dozens of versions of herself. And one in the corner with black eyes and no reflection behind her. A prison doctor, disturbed by the images, asked, "Which one is the real you?" Anneliese replied, "The one that got out first." 1 month later, Anneliese disappeared from her bed. No signs of forced entry. No broken glass, only her last drawing pinned to the wall with a nail. A mirror cracked, and a child's hand reaching out of it. Friedrich Lenz resigned the next day. He burned every document related to the mirror cell. He sealed the shaft with molten steel, and when asked what had happened to his daughter, he whispered, "I don't know which one came back." He died 11 years later in an asylum, babbling to himself in front of a hand mirror. His final words, "She's still in there, and so am I." Children are the most honest mirrors. They see what's truly there. So, if one tells you there's another version of herself trapped inside the reflection, you should listen before it learns how to trade places. By 1916, the war had changed everything. Men weren't just dying on the battlefield. They were breaking from within, shell shock, trauma, psychosis, and the German military wanted answers. Kriegsfall long shuddered. was quietly reopened, its mirror cell. Reactivated, not for punishment, but for research. Documents uncovered in 1974 revealed a secret program Ulenog, its goal. To test whether total visual feedback, unbroken self-observation, could accelerate psychological breakdown. Or reprogram the brain entirely. 5 prisoners of war, 1 doctor, a single rule. 3 days. No sound. No light but reflection. Test subject number 1, Franz was a captured British-German translator. He was chosen for his bilingualism and for the fact that he showed no fear. They gave him a wool uniform, and no shoes, and no mirror. No book, no pen, just himself, inside the cell. The lights never dimmed. There was no bed. No clock. No water. Just a chamber of perfectly polished reflection. Day 1. Silence and staring. For the first 12 hours, Franz walked in circles, muttering, touching the walls, blinking often, at T-hour 16. He began covering his face with his hands, BYR 22. He was talking to his reflection, not himself. His reflection. Guards recorded him saying, "You blink too fast." "That's not how I blink," you smiled. I didn't smile. Stop mouthing my words. Day 2. The voices begin. He began to hear breathing, heavy, shallow. Just behind him, every time he turned around it was gone, but the reflections, they were breathing even when he was N single quotes T.BYR 31. He began slamming his body against the mirrored walls, trying to crack them. He shouted, "They want to know if I'll break." I already did. Day 3. Collapse. At hour 42, Franz gouged his own eyes. The guards entered to sedate him. His mouth was moving, but not in words. It was humming, a melody later identified as Guttermann. Du guessed, so still a children's lullaby. He survived, but never spoke again. For years afterward, Franz made mirror gestures with his hands, reaching forward, then pulling back, then twitching. He refused to drink from anything reflective, and on nights of the full moon, he would press his face to windows and whisper, "It's looking out now, not in." They wanted to study madness, but they uncovered something else, a place, a space where reflections don't follow, where glass doesn't just show us back. It watches, and once it learns how you move, it waits for the moment you don't. Dr. Emil Vorst was a respected psychiatrist, calm, methodical, an expert in trauma and post-war mental illness. He didn't believe in superstition until he interviewed Heinrich Diller, the 4th subject from the mirror cell experiment. 3 weeks later, Emil was dead and his home was sealed as psychologically contaminated by the Bavarian Ministry of Health. What happened in that house? It started with a reflection. That didn't belong to him. Heinrich Diller was once a quiet violin teacher, drafted, captured, broken doctor. Vorst met him at an asylum on the outskirts of Stuttgart. The man would only speak under candlelight, never near windows, never near mirrors. When asked why, Diller whispered, "They're thin now, too thin. I can feel them breathing behind it." On day 2 of the interview, Diller became agitated. He told Dr. Vorst, "You think it's in the room. No, it's behind the glass." Waiting for us to make eye contact too long, he warned the doctor not to record anything, not to draw its shape, not to even say its name. Then he described it. "It looks like you, but taller, and no lips, and it doesn't blink." That night, back at home, Dr. Vorst noticed something odd. His bathroom mirror was fogged up, but he hadn't used hot water, and in the condensation was a handprint. On the inside, he wiped it away, and for a second, just one, his reflection didn't move with him. Over the following days, his reflection lagged by half a second. When he turned away, He saw his reflection still watching him. His dreams were filled with glass corridors and versions of himself whispering backwards. He smashed every mirror in the house, but still, in dark windows, spoons, puddles it returned. 1 week later, Dr. Vorst stopped coming to work. His house was found empty. Only a journal remained and a single mirror hanging in the attic. The journal's final entry read, "I've locked it upstairs, but it's patient ... IT doesn't want to hurt me ... IT wants to be me." Authorities found a shattered mirror in the attic and bloody handprints on the inside of the glass. A neighbor reported something else. The night Dr. Vorst disappeared, she saw him at the window, but she claimed there were two of him, one behind the glass and one inside it. What happens when your reflection doesn't follow? When it studies you, learns you, waits for the moment you hesitate, and then takes your place? The mirror cell may be buried, but whatever was inside it has mirrors everywhere now. Before the prison, before the experiments, before anyone entered the mirror cell. There was the design, but the man credited with creating it, Matthias Arendt, swore he never drew it. He claimed the plans arrived in his home, unmarked, unsigned, and impossible to unsee. In the spring of 1870, Arendt received a sealed envelope ... and a return address ... and a note inside. A set of architectural plans, perfectly precise, elegant, symmetrical. A 9-foot cube, walls of seamless mirrored glass, a hatch above, with no exit but up. A design unlike anything used in penal architecture. Arendt, curious and ambitious, submitted the design to the military commission building Kriegsfall. They approved it instantly. In his private journal, Arendt later wrote, "The first night I looked at the design, I had dreams of standing inside it, thousands of me, all whispering things I had not yet said." He stopped sketching, stopped working, and one night was found scratching symbols into his walls, spiral marks, and mirrored text. It drew itself. He kept saying, "I just traced what was already there." Psychologists who later studied the design noted something disturbing. When stared at for more than 2 minutes, viewers reported nausea, vertigo, and memory lapses. A geometric analyst claimed the dimensions resembled ritual containment grids used in pre-Christian mysticism. A mirror pattern in the floor plan precisely matched a sigil found in a 14th century grimoire known as Speculum Diaboli, the Devil's Mirror. Arendt became obsessed with reflections. He sealed every mirror in his home except one, which he placed on the ceiling above his bed. Neighbors said he could be heard whispering, "You must watch your back, because it will learn the front." He disappeared in 1873. His home was found abandoned, all mirrors smashed, except for a single floor-length one in the basement. Untouched, a note etched into its surface with a nail read, "It lives in the angles." Decades later, 4 other buildings Arendt helped design were inspected. Every one of them had hidden mirrored rooms in the foundations, unplanned by the clients. They weren't blueprints. A fellow architect said they were instructions. From where, I don't know. Design isn't always invention. Sometimes it's transcription. Ideas whispered into the mind. Forms not imagined but remembered. Matthias Arendt didn't build the mirror cell. He rebuilt something ancient, something that had been waiting to be rediscovered, and once it had a shape, all it needed was someone to step inside. For decades, the mirror cell was buried beneath steel and silence. The war had ended. The prison was abandoned, but in 1954, a decommission order came through from the East German government. Kriegsfall was to be inspected, stripped, and destroyed. A recovery team was dispatched. What they expected, a ruined shaft. What they found, a perfectly preserved cube, not a scratch, not a smudge, and something else. Movement. A young technician named Kurt Zeidler brought a reel-to-reel film camera to document the inspection. He filmed everything: the descent, the mirror chamber, the untouched walls, but when they played back the film, there was someone in the room. Zeidler had filmed the cell completely empty, no person, no light, no motion. But in the developed film, at the 17-second mark, something moved in the top left mirror, a figure, too tall, too thin, and no face, just a smoothed oval, where features should have been. It stepped forward, and the rest of the reflections didn't follow. The footage was shown to the inspection team. 2 men vomited, 1 refused to speak again. Later institutionalized, the commanding officer ordered the footage to be destroyed. But it wasn't. Zeidler kept a copy hidden in a hollowed-out book of fairy tales. The film resurfaced in 1986 during a post-reunification archive sweep, now referred to as Kurt tape. It was studied frame by forensic video analysts, their findings. The figure moved before the camera pan. No lighting source explained the shadow it cast. One reflection remained even when the others changed angles, fixed, watching. One analyst said, "It behaves like a predator testing glass from the inside." Engineers who reviewed the film pointed out something disturbing. In mirror geometry, every reflection should follow the angle of the camera, but the figure in frame 32 ? It was seen from the side, as if someone else were filming it from a different dimension. It blinked once, and then it smiled. The inspection was never completed. The mirror cell was welded shut again, this time with concrete, steel, and blessed oil. Zeidler left Germany in 1956. His final letter, found in a safety deposit box in Zurich, read, "I don't think it's in the glass. I think the glass is a door, and it's learning how to open it." Reflections are supposed to mirror, but what if they observe? What if they've been watching all along, waiting for you to let your guard down? To blink at the wrong time? To smile when you shouldn't? The mirror cell may be sealed, but if you're ever alone with a mirror, and your reflection moves just a little too late, ask yourself, did it follow you? Or are you the one behind the glass now? The last confirmed sighting of the mirror cell was in 1954. The shaft was sealed, the prison condemned, the records buried. But if you speak to the right people, archivists, prison engineers, wartime psychologists, some will tell you, it never really closed. It just moved. In 1993, a piece of mirrored glass was catalogued at the Bundesarchiv. It was marked Theta 4, do not handle without insulation gloves. 3 weeks later, it vanished. No sign of forced entry, but a night security camera captured something strange. A blurred reflection on the lens, a face smiling, when the guard wasn't. Rumors persist of a new mirror cell, not in a prison, but in a research complex, a place built deep beneath the Thuringian forest. No signs. No name. No surface entrance. Insiders call it Project Umkehrung, Project Reversal. Its logo, a mirror, cracked down the center. In 2012, a technician anonymously leaked internal notes. Subject 12, a failed mirroring test. Reflection blinked before subject did, isolating anomaly. Possibly independent cognition. Recommend structural inversion of test chamber, the most chilling line. It's no longer mimicking us, it's training us to become it. You don't need to believe in haunted prisons. You don't need to believe in demons or science gone wrong. Just understand this. You have mirrors in your home, your phone, your laptop screen, your window at night, and you look into them every single day. Do you remember the last time your reflection truly moved with you? Or did it wait just long enough to notice? The mirror cell was never a place. It was a doorway, a ritual, a question we never should have asked. What stares back when you stare too long? What moves when you don't? And if we ever do rebuild it, will we notice the first time one of the reflections doesn't come back? Or will it already be too late?